Chairman Locke, you're live.
All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I guess let's go ahead and call roll.
This is roll call for House Revenue, February 26, 2026. Representative Brown.
Here.
Representative Campbell.
Here.
Representative Lean.
Here.
Representative Lucas. Representative Riggins.
Here.
Representative Storer.
Excused.
Vice Chair Stibar.
Present.
Representative Worf.
Here.
Chairman Locke.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Very good. Thank you so much. And I just want to welcome everybody for being here on this fine day. And we got three nice little bills here and
You're live.
what's that?
You're live.
I'm live.
Yeah.
I'm dazed and confused. Okay, so well, there you go. So we're live and we're dazed and confused. So we'll just make it work. But anyway, I wanted to welcome you all here. Thank you so much for being here today. And we're going to have three bills we're going to go over. SF 110, residential property tax revisions. SF 44 will be second, gambling amendments. And SF 46, skill-based amusement game licensed liquor establishments. And that being said, Senator, thank you for being here, sir. And you may proceed with Senate File 110.
Mr. Chairman, it would be a pleasure to be here today. Be my first time in my 16 years in the legislature that I've ever been before the House Revenue Committee. So take it easy on me, will you?
Oh, we are blessed to have you.
It's not an area that I've spent most of my legislative career working in, but it has been a very important component the last 3 years as we try to figure out how to grapple, the rising inflation and cost of property tax. And it's been a journey, ladies and gentlemen. And I think if we've gone through this process, we've all learned a lot. And I think we've refined what we're trying to do. And I hope this just puts a little finer point on the good work that this committee and the legislature has done as a whole. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to go over a couple of high things real quick. So this is what we would call as basically what I would characterize as a fund swap associated with the 25% reduction that we give last year. Through, I believe it was Senate File 69. But members, the easiest way for me to get my head around what we're doing here is a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so I'm just going to walk through, what this does. And so this is just an average across the state. So you'll look and see 70% of all the mills collected are collected for either at the local or at the state level for the school foundation program. So that's that 70%. You can see it says school and state. There's a state component in there and there's a school. All told, there's a total of 43 mills collected for the school system. 25 of those mills are discretionary by the legislature. So 25 of that 70%, that's bills that we assess against that property that we're responsible for. The other 30% that you look down there, that goes back to the counties and those other special districts out there, your fire districts, hospital districts, EMP districts, all of those other districts that have taxing in it. That's that other 30%. That's county, municipality, and all those taxing districts that those people have voted for themselves. Effectively, what the bill does is, so what we did last year with the bills, we took a 25% pretty much across all of those out of that. What we're doing now is we're saying the bill does two things. The bill implements the constitutional provision that was passed in the November 2020, and that was to take the legislature could establish a fourth type of property. And so it's been determined by our legal staff that the flexibility that it gives us to do that is we could take that from 9.5% down to 8.3%. So the bill implements that. And when we first looked at that, what that effectively does is give somewhere between, or let's just call it an average of a 12.5% property tax reduction on that residential. So we've defined It's owner occupied residential property for 8 months. That's where we're given the tax relief. So for those properties, they're going to get that constitutional provision that reduces that from 9.5 to 8.5 or 8.3%. That only got us to 12% if we implemented that. So to get up to the full 25% of equivalent, what the bill does is go in there and it says out of those mills that the state of Wyoming collects for the school foundation program, we're going to adjust those down to get to that statewide average of 25% property tax reduction. We would take those mills to zero. So we just don't collect them. It's cleaner from a standpoint as we don't have to collect them and then backfill them. We're just not going to collect them. That won't be assessed against their property. That on average, it gives us a 25% statewide reduction. And the chairman's much more well-versed and understand this than I do. In some cases, it may be closer to 30% reduction in property taxes. And if he wants to opine on that, but Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, that's what it does. It says, we're going to take that property tax, first implement the constitutional amendment, and to get to the full 25%, we're going to take that out of the money that the state of Wyoming collects. What that effectively does is it takes that other 12.5% by the reduction of those mills, and that will restore that funding back to those local government entities. So your counties, your municipalities, your hospital districts, your EMT districts, whatever special district that may be, that money would not be assessed against their property. Those people voted for those special districts. Those county commissioners were elected just like us. That's their money. And it says, and it's about $18 million a year that would go back to the counties and the special districts. And so they're still going to pay the property tax on the constitutional amendment. But we're just trying to put a fine point on this and really get to the issue of providing that property tax relief. And then saying, we'll do it out of our side. Everybody's going to take the reduction on the constitutional amendment. And Mr. Chairman, a member of the committee, the reason I think this is important is because it now provides the opportunity for the voters to go to those special districts and those county commissioners and say, that's their money that they collect. If you want further property tax relief, the mechanism's already in place. If you go through the statutes, it says county commissioners can assess up to 12 mills. Special districts, almost everyone. It's not a mandate to assess 1 or 3 or 2. And so we need to educate our voters too and say, if you want further property tax relief, the mechanism already exists. It's the people that you elect at the county level and at those special districts to go in there and say they can right now go in there this tax year, and they could reduce their levies. And so rather than us being paternalistic, I think it's a good opportunity for us to educate those folks out, our taxpayers out there that look, the mechanism's already in place. You don't have to do this constitutional amendment. It's right there. July 1st, they're going to submit their budgets, and right there, they could get their additional property tax relief. So, Mr. Chairman, that's kind of a broader discussion, a little away from the bill, but just to get to the issue of, I know we're all kind of contemplating the upcoming election, but the mechanism's already in place to do above and beyond what we have done in the legislature. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for any questions.
Questions for the senator? Is everybody clear on exactly what the bill does? Are we all okay? Are there any questions on that? Senator, thank you so much. But I'm, if you don't mind, Senator, I might just kind of walk through it, make sure let me summarize it. So basically what it does is with the implementation of Amendment A, we basically take owner occupied down from 9.5 to 8.3. So that's at 12.5, really 12.6.3%. And then for owner occupied only, we collect 0 of those 25 mills to make up the other piece. Is that does that for owner occupied only? We collect 0 of the 25 school mills to make up the other piece. Does that summarize both pieces of this property tax? I just want to make sure I capture it correctly.
Yeah, absolutely correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just want
And,
to make-
Mr. Chairman, there is a budget footnote on this, but, and it's to actually implement this, but, you know, you're much more well-versed in how we have to adjust the county system, and we have the Department of Revenue that can speak to that, but that's on that footnote as the implementation time as to when this would roll in, but you're very well-versed on that, so when you work the bill, I think if there's any questions on that, you'll be able to explain it better than I can.
No, thank you so much, Senator. That's excellent. Any other questions? Yeah, oh, yeah, Representative Brown, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Hicks, this is a amendment that you brought to us. Could you walk us through that while you're here?
Yeah,
Senator, please.
Mr. And you're gonna have to adjust the dates on this. I actually pulled this out of a budget footnote that was in the budget that you guys put on in the House, which I think is, in my understanding, it's already in Senate File 69. It just, we need to bring it in here. So that amendment just basically says if you own a house and you live in this county and you sell it and you go over here and buy another, and as your primary occupant, say you get that tax reduction. Just because you changed houses and moved to a different community, you still get that deduction.
Follow-up question? So I think if I just interpretation, you guys know we've done that on a couple of bills, like the long-term homeowner. Remember, that was a kind of a miss that we had. I think we added similar language on that. So we just want to make sure we incorporate that here as well. Representative Campbell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator Hicks. I just had a quick question on this to make sure I'm following it down on page 3 after line 15 where it says insert. Should that be page 3 after line 16? I'm just trying to clarify, sir.
Yeah, and
Senator.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a copy of the engrossed version, so all my lines are gonna be off, so, yeah.
Are you, what are, Senator, well,
Yeah, what it is.
what are you referring
That
to?
explains-
Are you talking about the,
See, it's 16.
I see, okay, the amendment.
I'll go show. them.
Not tracking, Tony. I just want to make sure
Well,
that
I think the amendment, I think what we probably want to do is make sure we just make sure that that same language that we've put in some of the other bills, yeah, is in the right place, so we can take a closer look at
Yeah.
that, so, okay.
Definitely more.
Yeah. But I think we know what your intent is, and I think the goal there is to just make sure we get that amendment in the right place, so.
And Mr. Chairman, that's correct. Representative, it's just a matter of putting it in the right line. You're correct, Representative Campbell. We just need to get it after that.
Amend the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. All right, any other questions for the senator? Representative Storer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Hicks. I do appreciate the concept of putting into statute the language from Amendment A, excuse me, that the voters voted for, and thinking about how we can revise our property tax statutes so as to be constitutional. I guess part of my question is that we've got a ballot initiative that, for all intents and purposes, looks like it will be on the ballot in November of 2026. And that's already looking to be taking another 50% of property tax reduction that has been estimated to be about 124 million. So this could be on top of that. Is that the way I should be thinking about this?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator.
Senator Storer, no. So let me explain why. Working with the Department of Revenue and the treasurers, we're going to have to reprogram the entire computer system to do the coding to get down to these the occupied residential property. And if you look at the effective dates on this bill, this would not go into effect until January of 2028. And because of that effective date, assuming that the ballot initiative would pass, this would go into effect after that. The legislature could just come back and repeal this. So this will not go into effect until we know the final disposition of that vote. So there's a whole session there that the legislature then can come in and establish a correct course. I hope that answers your question.
Follow up,
Representative Store, please.
different subject. So the statewide average county mill levy is 68.5, give or take. So taking away 25%, 25 of those, 25 of 68, my math says that's about 37% state average. My county only assesses 58. So that's about a 44% decrease when you take 25 mills out. You follow my math?
I am, and let's see if I can address that, because this is a subset of those mills. And so keep in mind, what you're talking about is residential property, right?
Right.
We're talking about a subset of that residential property. So it's not as big a number as what it's not what you think it is, because I believe about 80% of that total is actually somewhere between 70-80% is going to be that occupied residential 8-month. So that's
Fair.
the differential. Does that make sense?
Representative Store.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That does make sense. So that it's a little less, but Teton County is almost all residential property. Not completely, but it's a bigger percentage than of all of our locally assessed. And we are also such a big piece of residential property tax, about a third for the whole state. So the fiscal note does show that Teton County, sorry, I got it here somewhere. We'll kind of have it. Anyway, our numbers go down pretty significant. I think it was 43 million, something like that. So it's a loss. I guess my point is not just to think about my county, but it is a loss of where the 25% is on the first 1 million, as y'all recall. And so this is really giving a pretty big tax break to wealthy, expensive home owners, at least they're owner occupied.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Senator
may, in the engrossed version and Representative Store, your senator put an amendment in there that set that at 3 million now. So you only get the first 3 million. So that will also help from a standpoint of Teton County, I think, to address part of your issue. From a standpoint, it's not the entire value of that residential property. It's only the first 3 million.
I don't know if I see that in the engrossed version we have, but that's something a Representative Store to consider. I don't see that in this engrossed version.
And Mr. Chairman, I may have missed that, but if it's not in there, I think we probably something the committee ought to consider.
Okay.
Or at least it needs to be debated, just because we did put the $1 million cap in Senate File 69,
Right.
correct?
30, yeah, it's in Senate File 39, I think, and in HB 45 or the
No, Mr.
3 million.
Chairman, yeah, my confusion is we put that amendment in the long-term homeowners
Right.
on the Senate side. And so
Right.
that would probably be something that if you want to make it conforming to what we did already with the 25%, you would add that $1 million cap on there. I believe that's what was in the 25% that we did last year, where there was a $1 million cap on that. So
So that would be an amendment that would make sense to pay, basically align here with what's been done before.
Yeah, I think so, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. And if I can explain one thing, and Senator, this is kind of with you here, just to make sure. So one of the things that this bill does, if, again, is, if I'm reading it correctly, is with the implementation of the Amendment A portion. So that first piece where we take it from 9.5 to 8.3, that's roughly, again, about a 12.63 impact. That is the impact that the counties and the locals will experience. So it will change the impact from 25% to that 12.63% to the counties themselves. The mills are the state mills that we're levying. So anything that we don't levy there falls into the state's responsibility to pay. So in a roundabout way, it's shifting the load, some of the load from the county to the state. I believe that's accurate.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
that's absolutely correct.
Okay, so just so everybody kind of understands how it shifts, because I do appreciate Representative Storer's concern from the perspective at the county level based on how they assess. It is true that those 25 mills, county by county, that varies by impact. But understanding that the county itself, the adjustment to them is going from 25% to the 12.63%. And the rest of that burden becomes the state's burden. But thank you. And please correct me if I'm
No,
mistaken.
Mr.
any-
Chairman, that's exactly right.
Great, thank you. All right, other questions for the senator, please? Question? Are you, okay. Senator, thank you so
You
much.
bet.
And department, we could use your expertise up here as well. And thank you, Mr. Sackett, for being here. We might try to talk actual numbers so people can fully appreciate it if that's something you're comfortable with. If you're not, no worries. But Mr. Gill, thank you for being here and helping us out. And basically maybe a little bit of just explaining the timeline and what the issues are. And I know there might be an amendment on the appropriation, so we'll want to make sure we squeeze that concept in. But thank you, sir. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Ken Gill with the Department of Revenue, Property Tax Division Administrator. Thank you for letting us speak to Senate File 110 this morning. This proposal is a very large change to the way we've historically assessed property and taxed property. When you think about it, as you know, we have fair market value times the level of assessment times the mill levy, that's the tax dollars. This bill contemplates changing that assessment level. Now, currently, the CAMA system can do that because everything in CAMA is driven by an abstract code, as you remember in our previous discussions during the interim. So changing the level of assessment per Amendment A that was passed by the voters in 24, that's easily done in the CAMA system. We can change that abstract code for those single-family owner-occupied residential structures, associated land, and change it to 8.3. That's easy. The hard part for us in the CAMA system, and is going to require programming, is the levy, the mill levy. So now, if you'll just imagine a property, imagine a house, associated residential land, a pole building that they store the RV in, and some agricultural land, all on one property, right? So now we're going to have a level of assessment for the house at 8.3, the associated land at 8.3. The mill levy on the house is going to be minus 25 mills, or whatever policy you decide. The associated land is going to be minus 25 mills. Now, the outbuilding or the pole barn where they keep the RV, that's going to be at 9.5% and going to contain the 25 mills in its levy. And the agricultural land will have 9.5% assessment level and contain the 25 mills. So we've always done it where it's the mill levy is at the account level in that tax district. So in a tax district is built up of many taxing authorities, whether it be weed and pest, community college, a county, municipality, whatever the case may be. So we've always just levied at that tax district level on that whole entire account. Now the programming can be done, and the vendor is assuring me that they can do this, but now we're going to actually have that levy at the specific item on each property. So that levy is we're going to have multiple levies per property in this proposal. So the programming can be done. I think we can administer it. Obviously, we will need some time to get that done because, as you know, we will have to contract with the vendor, and contracts take a little bit of time in the state. And of course, it'll have to go through our department that controls all of our IT in for the state of Wyoming, and then the regular course of the contract. So, Mr. Chairman, that it will be a challenge, but I think the camera system can get it done once we get it programmed. I heard mention of up to the first 3 million. I understand that. I understand the concept. But there again, we're going to have up to the first 3 million at a certain different level of assessment. The 4th million is going to be at a different level of assessment. And then the 3 million will be minus the 25 levies. And let's say it's a $4 million home, then that 1 million will be at a levy that contains the 25. So I don't have good language for it, but it could be a little bit troublesome to do that. I'm sure we can probably figure it out with the vendor, but I just thought I'd want to mention that. With that, I would stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Questions for Mr. Gill? Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for joining us. I have several questions. The first one being, how would you anticipate this to impact the ag properties? Because as we know, our agricultural folks have to come and improve that via income. Would this potentially cause them to become residential properties instead of ag properties?
Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lean, I hadn't even thought about that, but I guess it could, because they would want that associated residential land at minus 25 mils, basically. I guess that could happen. Agricultural's values based on its ability to produce already, so it's usually typically lower than residential or commercial land anyway for property tax and for valuation. So on a typical basis anyway. But I hadn't contemplated that, and I'm not even sure if there's a way to carve that out, maybe with some language not to include property that is in production or producing an agricultural product or something like that. But I hadn't really thought of that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Gill. With that comes the owner occupied attestation. Do you find that we currently have this up and running within the department? Is it easier for the department to administer that if they have to sign it every year or just until it's sold? Because your department also, or the assessors also receive the paperwork when there is a transfer of deed title.
Mr. Chairman, I think we can, we need to visit about that. Absolutely. You know, this is our first year of collecting that data. What that data looks like next year, if we're still gathering owner occupied properties. We have the system currently that we have online tied into the camera system, right? So if that ownership does change, we know that right away, and we can actually remove that claimant from the system, and then the new owner would then need to apply. I've researched this in quite a few other states, Idaho being the closest one to us that has an owner occupied type application. They do it one time. And then it stays owner occupied until that property sells. So, and then that's administered at the local level. So I think it can be done. I agree, having the taxpayers, and I think our local partners can speak better to this, but our taxpayers have to come in yearly and sign something or something like that could be burdensome for sure.
Yes, Representative Lean, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gill, I don't see any prevailing language in here about the ballot initiative and the current exemptions. Would it be beneficial to the department to have language that says that this should supersede the 25%, but leave in place the long-term homeowners?
So, Mr. Chairman,
Please
excuse
go.
me, it does repeal the 25%. If you look on page 5, section 2. It does repeal that. You are correct. It does not repeal the long-term homeowners. But currently, unless certain laws passed during this session, currently that long-term homeowners actually sunsets after this tax year.
And let me follow up on that just real quick. So that repeal would be when this is implemented. Is that accurate? So we would be in that 2028. Is that how that repeal is designed to? Because we've got a couple of dates here. I just want to make sure that they all align. We may want to make sure that that repeal is clear, that it would be when this would be implemented in 28.
Mr. Chairman, the way I read it, I believe that's true, but I think LSO staff should probably comment on that.
Okay, fair enough. That's great. And Representative Riggins, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Gill. I'm sure we've asked this question a year or so ago. I just want to define our contract for deed arrangements, owner occupied, if you know what I mean. Address that. I just never thought about sitting here.
Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, I think that might be a better question for our local partners and how they're administering that currently. From the way I understand and speaking to some of our assessors, they are treating them as owner occupied.
Very good. Other questions for Mr. Gill? And so, Mr. Gill, just making sure, I want to talk to these timelines just briefly. I know one of the things, there was an appropriation for the changes that need to be made. I believe that had a June 30th, 28 or something like that. I think from an appropriation perspective, we don't want to wait till June 28 to start. So I'm going to assume that something more expedient to get that job done would be required for that appropriation. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chairman, that would be great.
Something more
obviously.
like July 1st this year to kick
Yes,
the tires and light the fires on it. Okay, very good. And then in terms of the other timeline, of course, this is looking like implementation in January 1st of 2028. So it would be that tax year 2028 that was where this would be implemented.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay.
So the first tax year that this proposal would come into play would be January 1 and the 2028 tax year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Gill? Thank you so much for all of your help and support on this. We really
you, Chairman.
appreciate it. All right, other folks who would like to speak, I know the assessors are here today, so that's good. They can tell us how this stuff works on the ground. No, we're okay. I think maybe I'll regret that, but very good. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Dixie Huxtable, Converse County Assessor, and I have my colleague from Laramie County here, Mr. Todd Ernst. I had to beg and borrow from the department the engrossed version because I had failed to print it this morning. So I wanted to make sure I had the latest version. So we wanted to visit a little bit about this bill. As Administrator Gill talked about, this is a big change. A lot of moving parts, both internally and externally for the taxpayer to understand. So having the time to get this done and get it done right is imperative to us so that we can at least attempt to try to explain this to the taxpayers. They're thoroughly confused currently, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that we get all the dates and all the numbers to them. One of the issues that we've talked about this morning and I've heard talked about is the owner occupied criteria. So it was at 6 months originally. It's been amended to 8 months to be consistent with some of the other exemptions that we've been dealing with. I would point out, however, that the language does say not less than 8 months of the applicable tax year. So let's put this in perspective from the taxpayer that's coming in and applying for 2028. Is the expectation that they're going to live in that home for 8 months in 2028? Or is the expectation that they did live in that home for 8 months in 2027, the prior calendar year? That's a policy decision for you guys to make. It is an administrative issue for us. We are dealing with that currently with the owner occupied portion of the 25% homeowners exemption along with the long-term homeowners. We did offer some language in some of those bills to allow when a property sells, the months that they live in the first home to be added to the months they live in their new home to meet that 8-month criteria. But the language is still a little bit vague as to what year are we talking? Is it just 8 months from the prior to when they sign the application? Is, in this particular bills, it says applicable year. So talking about having to have that application annually makes me believe that is the intent. They're going to have to come in every year and tell us that that they're going to live in that house. Certainly, we can administer it either way. It's a policy decision for this body to make. I think that it's imperative that we do get that information from the taxpayer. In regards to a contract for deed or a document that's filed, you're correct, we do get those documents, and we do typically consider the contract for deed to be a new owner, and so that they're qualifying. However, what we don't get is when they've moved or bought another house and they've got multiple houses and they're sharing their residency between them, maybe in a state, out of state. Without some kind of an application on an annual basis, we don't have that, even if it's a phone call to confirm that nothing's changed. So those are all things to consider when you're talking about owner occupied qualification.
And where exactly is that wording and how, and again, just for absolute clarity, page, right?
Mr. Chairman, page 3 starting on line 4, when it talks about the owner occupied, and I'm in the
And-
engrossed version.
And how exactly, so how did we say that before on those other bills? When we went through that process to try to make the modification, it says, if you've bought and sold a house, as long as you've lived in a residence in the state, how did we do that to make sure we gave clarity? Did that give you the clarity you need, or how do we address that? I want to make sure we've got that clear on how to address the issue you raised.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure we did clarify it really. What we did clarify was to calculate the number of months so that when you sell one house and purchase another, the months that you live there combined to meet that 8-month criteria. As far as what year, I believe the current law, at least in some of the exemptions, just says a year, the year. It doesn't say applicable tax year. It doesn't say prior calendar year. I'm not sure what language you would want to put in there. I just know that the administration of it gets very difficult when you have people that just bought their home. And here's the example I had at my county yesterday. They bought their home after January 1st. They're going to live in it. They'll swear that they're going to live in it for 8 months of this year. Should they get an exemption as an owner occupied? Should I go back and look at, did they live in the house they sold? I had 2 of them. One of them moved from another state. One of them moved from another county. Looking at the strictest language of the law and the 25% homeowner bill currently in law, if they sign that affidavit that they're going to live in it for 8 months, I'm not sure I can deny that claim, but I don't believe that was the intent of this legislature.
So more than likely, what you're saying is this may actually be more accurate. Would you say the applicable tax year would make that more accurate and clearer to you, or no?
Mr. Chairman, when you say applicable tax year, it would, in my mind, that's based on the year they're applying for the exemption. And they have to apply for it before March 1st based on this amended language.
So, okay, so yes, maybe we're gonna have to discuss that in more detail. I don't want to hang everybody up here, but.
Mr. Chairman, at one point, we contemplated, and the department talked about rules about saying prior calendar year of the applicable year. So they have to be in it 8 months of the prior calendar year for the of the applicable year they're filing. And certainly wordsmithing that would be clear, but if you're applying for 28, you had to live in your home 8 months out of the year in the prior calendar year, which was 27. And however language you wanted to do that would make it clear to the taxpayer, clear to us that we're saying you have to live in a owner occupied home 8 months out of the prior calendar year for the year you're applying. That's certainly a policy decision
Okay,
that we can try to administer.
fair enough. No, that's an important topic that might have been overlooked, but go ahead, please.
Another question or just, I guess, a comment that's went around, the assessors is reporting this. I see no language about reporting, although we presume somewhere there's going to have to be a report because somebody's going to want to know how much taxes would have been collected had that 25 mills been assessed. And certainly I have full confidence the department will work with the vendor to get a report to do that. Just wanted to verify that we're fully cognizant that that's going to be asked of us, because whether you're backfilling, whether you're sending that money to the school district, because again, the 25 mills that's being exempted in this bill is the local school 25 mills. So somewhere, somebody's going to want to know what that dollar amount was, or you have another plan in place to distribute that money. So we just wanted to make sure that we are fully aware of that you're aware that we're going to have to do some reporting. And lastly, talking about the 25 mills and the percent of the mill levy. It's been a lot of discussion amongst elected officials and taxpayers. And I just did some math in my county. In my county, my mill levy ranges from 59 point something to 75 point something. So those people that are in the 59, let's round it to 60 mills, roughly they're getting 12.63% reduction based on the assessment ratio being dropped. And then because of where they live and the taxing entities that they have enforced where they live, that benefit is roughly about a 41.7% drop in the mill levies, which makes it roughly about a 54% reduction. Compare that to somebody that has the 75 mills in my county. Again, they're getting that 12.63%, but the percentage of the mill levy that they're going to see reduced is now dropped to about 31.2. So they're seeing an overall 43.8%. Now, bearing in mind, they voted for those other mill levies. Those other mill levies are special districts that they voted on or chose to live in. So in the discussions that we've had is the 25 mills is consistent across the board. Everybody's getting that 25%, that it's not a 25%, 25 mil break on their mill levy, and everybody's getting the same 12.63% on the assessment ratio. The fact that their taxes are different is significant. I fully admit that, and we all understand that, but they are now as well. They have different values of homes. They live in different taxing entities. So that's different. But we've had that discussion trying to figure out how to explain it to the taxpayer. I'm not sure we've got a good answer for that yet, but we'll work on it. We do a lot of talking, so we will keep that conversation going. With that, I would stand for any questions and offer my colleague if he has any comments.
Comments? Committee, questions? Well, Ms. Huxtable, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Representative. I'm sorry, Representative Starr. You're stealthy to me today. I apologize. I didn't mean to.
I'm just
cut
blending
you off
into the
there.
background here.
Before I wasn't looking this direction. Now I'm just not seeing anybody. So we're doing great.
It's all right. I'm having trouble seeing
Well,
anyway.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm curious about this concept of trying to limit these exemptions to $3 million of value. That it does seem pretty tricky that, would we only, I think the idea of limiting the 12.5%, 8.3, that seems unlikely. That I think everyone would have to get the 8.3 reduction most likely. And then, or I guess you'd split the 3 million value. The first 3 million would be 8.3 and the rest of it would be 9.5.
Mr. Chairman.
But
Ms.
then, yeah, how do we do that?
Ms.
Should it be
Huxtable.
25 mils also, anyway, just walk me through whether that seems possible or not.
Representative Starr, when that was brought up, I'll admit, I think Administrator Gill's eyes started twitching and my heart started pounding. I don't know how we could do it. I'm not going to say it can't be done because computer programmers do fantastic things these days. But the idea that one house is going to have different assessment ratios and mill levies seems inconceivable to me at this point. I'm not saying that it can't be done, but it would be outside my wheelhouse. It's going to take some expertise. So, when the cap was put on the long-term homeowners, which I think is what was being referred to, that's an easy fix because that's one exemption and you can do that math with that one exemption. Trying to take one structure and put different ratios and different mill levies, I'm not sure that that's possible. Right now, if I had to say here, I'd say it's not possible. I can't do that. Somebody with some programming technology would have to show me that it works.
Ms. Storer, anything, Representative Storer? Okay, all right. Any other questions? I want to thank you for coming. I do want to, I'm sorry, I'm going to torture you a little bit on that, just that one comment, because theoretically, I mean, we're kind of really, the assessment in a given year is kind of against the previous year at some level. So is there an appropriate, I don't know, what's the appropriate way to do this? Because I don't know. I think you might be right that the concept that I promised to live in the house for 8 months was not the intent. Right. So the question is maybe more lived in the house 8 months or lived in a primary residence for 8 months in the previous year. I just throw that out as a question here and really as a question to the committee. If that's some language we may want to consider, because it would seem to me that that's the intent, that even if I'm signing an affidavit that says, yeah, I was a resident, I really should be signing an affidavit that doesn't say, I promise to be. I should be signing an affidavit that says I was. That's my belief, at least that's one man's opinion up here, but I just wanted to get a feel for your perception of that and how that language would affect this.
Mr. Chairman, that is exactly one of what we're thinking, is that it should be that you're signing an affidavit of what you have done instead of what you promised. Because what happens if they don't? Do I go back and supplement them and add some taxes to them? For example, somebody deceased, somebody sells a property, something happens. Would I then be obligated to go back to that particular account and recalculate the tax? So in our mind, in my mind specifically, having them sign an affidavit that I did live for 8 months out of the prior year in an owner-occupied residence. I'm not even saying that it has to be one residence. You can have multiple homes if you've traded homes throughout the year. But at least you're telling me that you resided in an owner-occupied home in the state of Wyoming for 8 months. And I believe that was the intent in all the conversations, and we've had a few of them over the years. So I believe that was the intent, and I think we could administer that fairly and equitably across county lines.
And I guess I will thank you, because that brings some additional clarification. You know how these things are. Sometimes we learn an inch at a time. But I appreciate you bringing that up, because it's actually kind of an important topic for all of these bills that have been moving through. And so I want to make sure we get that right and maybe get a consistent approach to how we deal with this. But thank you so much. Any other questions, just to make sure? I know I took a lot of your time, but thank you for working with that with us. Okay. All right, others to speak on the topic.
Chairman Locke, just let you know, we do have a representative from the Wyoming County Treasurers Association online. I don't know if you want her before public testimony or.
Anyone, we could do that. We'll go ahead and do that and we'll let her speak first. So.
Lindsay West should now be on the stream and able to answer any questions as long as give testimony.
All right.
Good morning, Chairman. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
All right. Well, Chairman Locke and committee, my name is Lindsay West, and I serve as the Carbon County Treasurer and also as current president of the Wyoming County Treasurers Association, here today speaking on behalf of the association. From a treasurer's perspective, this bill does two primary things. It reduces the level of assessment, and it reduces the number of mills that are levied for local school district operations for qualifying property. From an administrative standpoint, the varying assessment levels are not our main concern. Again, the heavier lift for county treasurers comes from the potential requirement to apply two distinct mill levies to a single parcel within the same taxing district. Currently, 3 software systems provide property tax billing and collection services across the state. None of those are presently equipped to administer dual mill levies within one tax district. We have received feedback from 2 of the vendors so far. Both indicate that the implementation is feasible, but that it will require some time to develop. The question posed to them was not inclusive of the conversation of the cap of 3 million. So we would need to reach back out to them to ensure that addition is feasible. We do appreciate that the effective date of this bill was moved to the 2028 tax year to allow for a more reasonable timeframe for development, testing, and coordination of the system. Senate File 110 has also raised questions for treasurers related to the distribution of certain motor vehicle fees. Treasurers would recommend an amendment related to distributions under Title 31 to address that concern. And I'd like to just briefly explain why we are requesting that clarification. So county vehicle registration fees, along with prorate, mobile machinery, dealer plate, and permanent trailer fees described in Title 31, require distribution by county treasurers in the same proportion and manner as property taxes. Each registration or renewal processed by our office is assigned a tax district to accomplish that. This bill essentially is creating 2 different effective levy structures within the same taxing district. Neither current statute nor original bill language clearly specify which of those levy structures govern that proportional calculation. That lack of clarity is what prompted our request for an amendment. And I think the fear is without that clarification, counties could interpret the proportional distribution differently, which risks inconsistent application across the state. Because these distributions also flow to other taxing authorities, clear statute is important to help them determine how to plan and how to budget for this revenue source. Adding something to the effect on line 6, page 5, stating that the 25 mills contemplated in this bill are either explicitly included or excluded from those provisions in Title 31 that call for that proportional distribution of motor vehicle fees could address that, the concern that we have for that. I really hope that that helps clarify from a treasurer's perspective what this bill does and how we approach the implementation. We would stand ready to work with the assessors and the property tax division at the department to provide for cooperative and effective implementation should this become law. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning and would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. West? Ms. West, have you coordinated this with, or how closely have you worked with the DOR on this specific request in this issue? And is there a clear amendment? I guess I'm going to ask the department is there a clear understanding of what would have to change or what we would need to do here? I guess I would like to understand that as well. If that's something that, I just want to make sure that we understand. It's not clear to me exactly how these 2 things come together, but this is not that's maybe a little beyond my expertise or a long way beyond it, let me say. But I just want to make sure we have an understanding of what we think we need to do here. So anyway, Representative Riggins, please, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for highlighting another complexity to this. I appreciate that because we hadn't heard that from that particular side of administrating this change. So I appreciate that information. Thank you.
All right. Other questions, Representative Lee?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for joining us today. Could you please repeat on excuse me, page 5, line 6, the language that you were talking about?
Chairman Locke,
What?
Representative Lean. So line 6, page 5, we would request that language such as any reduction in the number of mills levied pursuant to that subparagraph I of this subsection shall not be considered in determining distributions made under, and then there are several statutory references back to Title 31 that would have to be included because they all call for the same proportional distribution as property taxes.
You have that captured? Very good. I guess we'll coordinate with the DOR, but any other questions from Ms. West? All right, Ms. West, thank you for being here and thank you for bringing that to our attention. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. I guess at this point, anyone else in the room who would like to speak, please, come on up, fill the chairs and let's get this thing over with. And we might keep it a little short, short and tight as we can. Just, as usual, I have run probably longer on the first bill than I should have. Please proceed. Please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Winnie, Sublette County. Given all the complexities of the tax issue, and I understand full well, given some of my background with money spent on weapon systems in the Navy. But I'd ask the committee to keep your eye on the ball, so to speak. I believe the original intent of this was to give a tax break to lower income people. And it's a part of our structure that the more well-off people get wrapped into that. But just keep an eye on that fact of low income folks. I've and knocking on doors around my county, I've seen too many houses where people just walked away from the house, dropped the keys in the kitchen and take off. Subject to your questions. Thank you.
Any questions from Mr. Winnie? Mr. Winnie, thank you so much, sir, thank you for being here. Sir, Reeman, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Jeremiah Reeman here on behalf of the County Commissioners Association. I appreciate you taking up this legislation. It is something that we support, and part of that is what Mr. Winnie just pointed out. This legislation actually can provide additional tax relief for residents without harming the local governments in the way that some of the other provisions could have. Mr. Chairman, we worked very closely with the assessors, the treasurers, the department to bring amendments in the Senate to improve this. I know you just heard from the treasurers. I just received their language this morning myself. Very happy to work with them to try and craft that properly for you and bring that back to you and work with the other parties to do that. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will keep it brief. We are supportive of this legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Reeman. Questions for Mr. Reeman, committee? All right. Mr. Reeman, thank you so much, and thank you for bringing some focus here. And if this moves forward, if the committee chooses to move forward, I would ask everyone kind of stay at the ready to make sure, because it is a kind of a big change, and we just want to make sure we do a thorough job moving forward, but I appreciate that. Others who would like to speak on this bill? Public comment, public organizations, anybody? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure on the bill?
Move the bill.
The bill has been moved and seconded moved by Representative Brown, seconded by Representative Campbell. All right, let's kind of go through the bill because I know there's a number of potential amendments. Then let's just go through page 1. Page 2. And I'll take a moment to let everybody kind of make sure we. Page 3. Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For those of you that have your computers open, I emailed you some language and I sent it to LSO on page 3. Excuse me, on page 3, line 13, to add the words after dwelling and includes any associated outbuildings or accessory structures on the property, such as sheds, pole barns, garages, or other outbuildings used for residential purposes. If I can get a second, I'll explain. Second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded.
The purpose of this amendment is to make sure that when we have a residential property, we're all encompassing the entire tax property gets one tax code, or one tax mill levy. That was the language I came up with, and I'm happy to discuss with anyone or LSO.
All right.
Where we get it right.
Discussion on the amendment. It's been first and it's been moved and seconded. Discussions on the amendment. Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, continue to move forward on the bill. Anything else on 3? Representative Lean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Page 3, lines 4 through 7. I just would like to make the motion to amend that to substitute the language that we put in the long-term homeowners, which reads, primary residence means residential real property in Wyoming where the person claiming the exemption actually resides for not less than 8 months of the year. If the primary residence is sold and another property is purchased within the state of Wyoming, the months residing in both owner-occupied residence shall apply to the requirements of this exemption.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Is there any, let me just ask, well, I'll just, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion on this amendment. Further discussion. Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question on when was the imposition, when were the enactment of this change? Was that in here? For what
Yes,
year?
It is. It's in
20.
28. The
Oh, there it
28
is.
tax.
It's at the very bottom. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, other discussions on this amendment. Representative Campbell.
Could we call back Ms. Huxtable real quick to see what the assessor's take is on this?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Campbell, I need to fully, I guess, hear the amendment again, but it sounded to me like it took care of calculating the 8 months. It didn't tell me whether it was the prior year, the current year, or future year. So maybe if you could explain, read it again.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Huxtable, this is the exact language that we put in the long-term homeowners exemption and the 25% reduction to take care of the 8-month language that follows the person and not the resident.
Okay.
So 8 months in the state of Wyoming.
Mr. Chairman and Representative,
But-
and again, that
Which
confirms 8 months,
is-
but
Question that I think
Correct.
Ms. Huxtable's bringing up is this issue of which year that has been pending, because that's the question. Is the affidavit I promised to, or is the affidavit I have? And that was, I think, the question that I think Representative Campbell is bringing up in the discussion. And thank you, Ms. Huxtable. That's so Representative Campbell, do you have the discussion on this with the bringer of the amendment or with the committee? Discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, the way that I read this amendment, it means if you have owned a home for 8 months of the prior year and lived in it, that you get credit for the next tax year as long as that is now your primary tax residence, primary residence to live in.
And I think that's the question that remains is the prior year clear in that amendment? If, when you read it, that's what that's your interpretation of that language?
Residing in both owner occupied residence shall apply. And it says in the state of Wyoming at the top, residential
Okay.
real property in Wyoming where the person claiming the exemption actually resides for not less than 8 months of the year.
Representative Campbell.
What would it do if we, on line 6, resides for not less than 8 months, at the end of 8 months, just insert of, or at the end of the insert prior calendar year?
Well, that's a different amendment. Are you looking to
Oh,
try to
yeah,
amend
no.
her language?
No,
Representative Lean, because if you're going to make a separate amendment, we can do that too. So If there's no discussion, well,
It's good.
yes, ma'am.
Um,
Is that language clear enough?
Mr. Chairman, if you were to add that, because it's not the combining of the two houses that is the concern, it's that language that says for not less than 8 months of the year. So if you could, if you were to add some language that said for
The
8
prior
months
year.
of the prior calendar year, then it would be
I see.
clear that I'm applying for it for 28. I have to have lived in
So-
it for the prior calendar year.
So is that a friendly amendment, Representative Lane?
Mr. Chairman, yes, to add the word prior,
Okay.
8 months of the prior year.
Okay, so that's a friendly amendment. And who seconded? I apologize. That was at least a couple of minutes ago. Okay, perfect. Okay, and that's a friendly amendment to the bringer and the bringer and the second. Okay, very good. Any other questions on this amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of this amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, moving on. Page 3, any more? Page 4? Yes, Representative Lane, or Lucas, sorry.
If we could just back up to page 3 again, please.
Yep,
Line 16. If we could insert after residence by the owner as defined in paragraph XIX of the subsection. I think that tightens it up a little more.
okay. Do people catch that amendment? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, moving on then, page 4. Anything on page 5? Ms. Storr, Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Because we're thinking about this bill, down the road here, I think it would also, what I like about the bill is it strives to provide some changes that are much more in line with our Constitution than some of the ones we've done previously, and that I think are likely to be challenged between now and when this bill would be implemented. And one of those is the 4% cap. I think if you all remember, we thought we were actually going to have a court case right before the session on that. I think the likelihood of seeing that is pretty high. And part of the problem with the 4% cap is it's really, as I think all of you had seen when the department gave us how these different exemptions we created and how they were landing. I think even you, Mr. Chairman, said, well, I didn't expect that number to be so big, and that number being the value of the cap in Teton County. So, that cap is it's pulling out about $50 million in taxes annually, and that number is going to keep getting bigger because the delta between where we started and each year, if it's keeping property taxes lower, and of course it just expands, right? So one year it's this much, and then the next year, because it goes back, right? So we're always keeping a limit on what those can be. And I think the likelihood of that being challenged is quite strong between now and 2028. So, and I also think, it hits the wrong people. As Mr. Winnie said, we're really trying to give relief where it matters. And I think we've done some good things here. The fact that this room is not full of citizens yelling at this committee about their property tax means we've done a few things right. But in this case, the 4% I think is really problematic. So I think what would be interesting, and at least that way we could run some numbers and try to see what this would look like, would be to actually also repeal the 4% cap. And so we would do that in the language on page 5, line 10, by just adding in 3 other sections. Under 3911-105A, you would insert after the A, Roman numeral, let's see, 43 and 44. So XL, III and XL IV in the repeal number. So I just thought I'd throw that idea out, see what you guys think.
Are you moving that or?
I would like to move that.
Okay, so Representative Storr has moved that we repeal the 4% cap. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second is Representative Riggins. Any discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. All opposed? No? No. Okay. Moving on, any other amendments on page 5? Would someone consider the amendment? We want to make sure the appropriation is maybe handled in a timely manner. Someone, is that something the body is interested in?
I make a amendment, we move that to July of 26 for the appropriations. So these guys can start working on it.
Representative Stivar has moved July 1st, 26?
Yeah, July 1st.
July 1st, 26. Is there a second?
That way
Representative
we can give
Lucas.
the
Okay,
committees time to
Okay.
do the work on it.
any discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay. So you guys got that, just moves that to July 1st, 2026. Okay, perfect. And really that is the bill unless someone wants to change the enactment dates or on the last page. Are there any other amendments that I have missed? And I'm sorry if I have missed any.
Move the bill.
All right, the bill has been moved and seconded and we're moving. Any discussion on the bill? Okay, Representative Riggins, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would have liked to seen this bill come out with what Amendment A was standalone and how it was presented. I would like to see the 8.3%, and that would be enough for me to satisfy you have done something with Amendment A. And the rest of this is very intriguing, and I would love to look at it, but I would like to look at it for weeks to find out where I'm at. So I'm going to be a no vote on this, Mr. Chairman, just so you know.
Thank you, Representative Riggins. Any other any other discussions, questions? Representative Storr, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also kind of feel the same way with Representative Riggins that this is a big idea. It's a big change. Understanding exactly what it's going to do. It seems like this would be a better interim topic for us to take up. And understand it better and understand kind of where it lands. And also look, we've got a couple of years now, we can see what we've done and see the impacts of those. I think there's a big piece of me that just feels like this is a shift. Once again, we are giving taxpayers a big break because when we think about who we're taxing in the state, and we're expecting the state to make up for that schools, we're still going to have to fund the schools, right? We're still going to find those 25 mills somewhere. And while I appreciate the idea of keeping our counties whole, and recognizing that they are limited in what they can raise, I like that piece of it. I like the Amendment A piece of it. But at the end of the day, this is really a transfer of taxation from homeowners, especially ones that have expensive properties. It's just, they're getting more of a tax break. Let's just put it that way, right? Because they have a more expensive home. And then asking the mineral industry or our investments, or which also come from the mineral industry, to make that up, essentially. We're putting a big hole in our pocket by just saying we're not going to collect these mills. And I think that is really a policy discussion that we should be taking seriously. So I think this would be a better interim topic rather than advancing this bill at this time. Thank you.
Other discussions on the bill? Representative Lean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm on in favor of the bill. I look at it as a tax reform, that its local impact to the funding will be minimal. It'll be less than it was the last year. So I hope that our municipalities and counties recognize that we're trying to work on a solution to give our taxpayers relief without impacting their funding. It implements Amendment A, which I think is important that we get done because the taxpayers said they wanted that done. And there's no additional burden on our industries. And this makes sure that our property taxes and our tax rates are set for industry and for our homeowners. And I think that that's a great way to reform property taxes. So on and in favor.
Other discussions? Seeing none. Let's call the roll. Thank you.
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 110 as amended. Representative Brown,
Aye.
Representative Campbell,
Aye.
Representative Lean,
Aye.
Representative Lucas,
Aye.
Representative Riggins,
No.
Representative Storer,
No.
Vice Chair Stivar,
Aye.
Representative Wharf,
He left a aye vote on this, and I'll provide that to you guys.
Chairman Locke.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 7 ayes, 2 noes.
Very good. So Senate File 110 is done, and I will probably have to apologize to Senator Cole. Do we want to start it today and get it going? If you are okay with that, let's start on 44. Thank you, sir. Thanks so much. And I am sorry we we got to you so late. I apologize.
No apologies necessary, Mr. Chairman. I understand it's a lot of lift.
Please, sir.
Okay.
Please
I'd like to
proceed.
explain Senate File 44 first. Introduce my co-chair on our task force over the interim, Representative Lynn. I always get that wrong. Please excuse me. I'll go through this. The first bill is really a cleanup bill for amending exceptions for the offenses of gambling. Now, this came about let me get this in a better place. This came about because of the industry's, the Gaming Commission trying to enforce current gaming regulations. There's frankly, for lack of a better word, loopholes within the statute that allowed certain things to happen because they weren't written tightly enough, or, it's hard to see the future and the unforeseen consequences of what we do. And this is what this is really referring to. We go through this. I'll just hit some of the major points. There's the first section, page 2, there on line 1. And it goes on to say contingent upon, but does not include any of the following. So these are the exceptions. So this exceptions wise, we're not trying to get in on your card game at Thanksgiving with your relatives. That's not the intent. So there's carve outs in here that specifically talk about what this does not cover. In other words, those are legal activities in our gaming law. That's what that's referring to. The next section, which would be on page 3, starting up there on line 2, and it talks about the identifying basically gaming places of gaming, which turned into our bars. So we had our bars conducting card games in the back, taking a cut or a buy-in. So we had to basically laser that out and say, no, you can't make a profit in that activity, because now it becomes a business activity. So they had issues with enforcement because, well, it wasn't defined well enough. So this was a way of tightening up that definition. And it goes on, it says receives any remuneration from facilitating, participating, or hosting and organizing the game, wager, or transaction other than direct realization of the winnings, which basically talks about a business enterprise. That's what that's encompassing. The next one is raffles, which depending on if you have any questions, that was dealing with raffles and being more specific on just how you would proceed and what would be considered charitable purposes and how you would calculate that. The next one would be what kind of goes into profit. And frankly, it would just be simply a financial gain instead of the long language we had there originally. Next would be the bona fide social relationship, which is probably the Achilles heel of this original attempt of talking about language. And we had people that would say, I have an affiliation because I like to gamble. And I could say I have a bona fide social relationship because I like gambling. So it specifically says, no, that does not qualify for a bona fide social relationship. Once again, it was a way of getting it back to the purpose of the intent of the original law is to have people be able to do your games between friends, and the differential between that and games that are engaged for a business purpose. So it's a lot of little things here that would try to be cleaned up. I'm not going to guarantee it's perfect. Perfection is probably something I'll never claim to have, but the attempt here is to improve what we have, and that's what this bill does, Mr. Chairman. And I'll stand for questions, Mr. Chairman.
Questions? Yeah, Representative Stivar, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How will this affect like the VFW doing Queen of Hearts, that kind of stuff?
Senator, please.
Chairman, Representative Stivar. Queen of Hearts is an illegal activity. It's illegal the way they've been currently doing it. That is part of the problem with our gaming regulations as they sit. I will tell you that this raffle language here on H actually expands it in some ways to let that happen a little bit more easily. And that's probably the one thing I will tell you is debatable on this bill draft for the committee to consider is, do you think that's proper, the way it's written here? And so what it actually says, to answer your question, Representative Stivar, sorry if I didn't do that. Many of these activities, we can, Nick with the Gaming Commission is here. He can probably tell you exactly the nuances of why those games have issues. There's a huge problem in the state beyond what this bill does is the knowing of what is legal and illegal in the state of Wyoming for gambling, gaming. Okay. So we've had a belief that certain things are just fine to do up until someone finds out you're doing it. Typically, it's the person down the street said, Joe's doing it, and they investigate and cite everybody and say, okay, that money has to go to a charitable purpose. That's the cease and desist orders I've seen. So it's a very good question, Mr. Chairman. It's not encompassed in this bill, and it actually I could say under raffles and drawings it probably opens it up because it allows a payout from that, and then anything above that or above that line would be going to a charity. I would actually suggest that maybe you consider that number being you'd have to have greater than 50% going to a charity, because the purpose is for a charitable event. So it's a big lift here, this bill. There's a lot of parts to it, but just it's an education thing, Mr. Chairman. If you'd want Nick with the Gaming Commission to come up, I'll phone a friend, okay, and he could probably help the committee out.
Please feel free to come up if that's, there's nothing wrong with having our friends at the table. So Representative Stivar, please.
All right, Chairman. They're called like a 50-50 raffle. I mean, I've seen them done it, posts
Mr.
around the
Chairman,
state.
Representative Stivar, I think Nick is probably more nuanced in this because he does the enforcement of this. So I would defer to Mr. Laramundi to answer that question. I'll follow up if need be.
Thank you, sir. Please feel free to introduce yourself and maybe answer Mr. Stivar or Representative Stivar's question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Nick Laramundi. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Gaming Commission. So I'll give you, it's kind of a two-part answer. So a 50-50 raffle, 50% goes to the winner, 50% goes to the charitable purpose. Those are legal raffles. A raffle, under current law, a raffle may only be conducted for a charitable purpose. With no definition of raffle, what we look at is the traditional legal definition of a raffle. So a raffle is when a patron or a person buys entries, tickets, number tickets for a chance to win a prize. So a 50-50, you buy a ticket, they draw that number, the winner wins. In the Queen of Hearts conundrum, you're actually buying raffle tickets to then take part in an illegal activity. So you can't put a potentially legal activity, i.e. the raffle, on the front end of an illegal activity on the back end, i.e. Queen of Hearts, and make the Queen of Hearts then legal. So that is the problem. To answer your question more directly, this does not really make the Queen of Hearts legal any more than they are currently. It makes it very clear that a lot of these activities are illegal. The other thing that I would say to Senator Kolb's point, the only thing that's changed within our gambling law since this, I think 82, is in 2020 when the Wyoming Gaming Commission was created from the Wyoming Parimutuel Commission. And part of that change specifically mandated our office to investigate and enforce illegal gambling. So now we have an agency whose sole purpose is to investigate and potentially help with prosecutions of illegal gambling. We have folks out in the field all day, every day that are doing regulation of legal gambling, skill games, OTB operations, and they go into these locations, they're in bars all the time, and they're seeing this illegal activity. And that's kind of what's sparked a lot of this discussion. I'm happy to answer any questions and any avenues of gaming that I can for you.
All right. Other questions for really the senator, representative, or the commission? Yeah, please, Representative Riggins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. When on page 3, number 4, talks about, like we talked earlier about private buildings hosting events, right? Poker night, etc. So as long as they're just letting them have the venue to play in, and they're not participating or not taking an advantage, they're just hoping more customers buy their products that are normally for sale at the lounge. Is that a violation in any way, shape, or form?
Mr. Chair, Representative Riggins, so the way that this currently reads, it says in which no person receives any remuneration from facilitating, participating, or hosting. I think the argument could potentially be made that if they're increase in drink sales, they are profiting from hosting that game. Really the purpose of this was to prevent these local establishments from creating essentially poker halls. So, I mean, that's something for you to consider. If maybe there needs to be something, if you all choose to let drink sales not be a part of that.
All right, Senator, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to be more clear about the larger scope of the issue, it is about gambling facilities. Obviously, we can't be that punitive and stop somebody from having a card game in the back. That was not the intent of this. The intent of this was to stop professional operations where people had buy-ins in emissions. That was the purpose, to be very clear about this. And that's the intent of this bill.
Perfect. Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To answer the good representative's question, we're talking about a group of people that get together to play cribbage at the coffee shop. They could still do that. That the house isn't facilitating any amount of take from that and there's no real financial gain. They may play $5 on the table and then they come back the next week and play cribbage again. We didn't want to outlaw that, but we want to make sure that we're not opening gambling halls.
Other questions? Very good. And anybody else like to speak on this bill? And I don't want to run the current folks off unless you feel like you want to leave, but Senator, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you need room up here, I'll just sit back and come back if you need me to. I'm not going anywhere.
No worries. That's great. I didn't want to run anybody off, but if anybody else would like to speak to this, I think we'll go ahead and get moving on that. So thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Feel free to sit there. It doesn't look like you're going to get overwhelmed too bad. So you're good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll sit back and listen.
Thank you,
Oh,
Senator.
I didn't see this coming. I'll sit here then.
And please fill the seat, sir. Please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mike Mosier, Wyoming State Liquor Association. We helped work on this bill in the interim. The reason it was really motivated was because of, as Representative or Chairman Lean on this committee mentioned, were illegal poker parlors that were opening throughout the state. You might remember a bunch of advertisements during big football games about these poker parlors. They were using club licenses as a premise, so you had to be a member even though you didn't know anybody. So they closed them down happily with existing statute, but we thought it would be a good idea to tighten things up. Actually, I would push back a little bit. There was a pretty significant bill passed in 2007 regulating bingo, pull tabs, but most of all poker because of a result, partially because the Attorney General the year before had determined that if you're in a restaurant and you sell somebody a cup of coffee, instead of that being an indirect profit, it became a direct profit, taking a cut, and all cribbage and poker became a felony overnight. And so we passed legislation to clarify those social games in bars and restaurants and public places. And like I said, that passed in 2007. It also placed additional sideboards on bingo and pull tabs because we were having problems with illegal bingo parlors. The idea of this bill, in my understanding, is to not make anything more restrictive. It's sideboards, clarifying what is illegal, which is currently illegal, but not cracking down on social games in businesses and clubs. Social gaming has always, for the last 150 years, has always been done in Wyoming. And it used to be the liquor division did the enforcement on all gaming activities. And poker really didn't become a big deal, or card games, because remember, we are talking about cribbage here too and other games that people play. Didn't become an issue until, like I said, in 2006. A couple quick points. I've been asked by legislators, will this crack down on illegal poker? No, probably won't even make much of a dent. The real problem is online. Online poker is growing. In-person poker actually is faltering. The heyday of inline, now, let me bear in mind, we support keeping things legal and we support the sideboards, but the real growth is online in all forms of gaming. The heyday of poker was when everybody was playing Texas Hold'em and you had all those fun reality shows with the guys in the dark glasses and stuff. You're really not seeing poker blowing through the roof. It's always been illegal to take a cut. This just clarifies that it's illegal for the house to take a cut. Now, to make it clear, taking a cut does not include selling him a cup of coffee or a plate of nachos. I understand the concern with subsection 5, and I reflected that same concern because on page 3, it does mention there's subsection 5, person. Well, person can be business. And is that somebody selling drinks? We don't think it does. I worked with the good chairman sitting to the right of me, not politically, but sitting to the right of me.
Okay.
But and so we don't feel that's the case, but it certainly is not the intent that the business can't sell them any product.
So you're in support of this bill, basically?
We're in support of the bill. We're just now to address Representative Stivar's question, and I'll speed things up because I know we're in a hurry. There is concern about enforcement. Bona fides, we've seen a lot of enforcement with coin pushers, which were completely legal for decades, and now they're a felony. As of 3 or 4 months ago, we've seen the same thing with Queen of Hearts. And I'm not saying whether they're a felony or not a felony, but we've seen guys with guns and badges coming into the FWs and other clubs in particular. And so we don't want that happening because we don't want undercover agents playing poker to make sure everybody has a bona fide social relationship. So we're concerned that what it can be used for might go too far, and this is going to be a wait and see, because we don't want to make illegal what is currently legal. The Queen of Hearts fight will continue to go on, I'm quite sure. And so will the coin pushers, but hopefully, and I understand where the Gaming Commission's at on this, hopefully we're kind of seeing the end of that, because it's concerning if you're a VFW, having a guy with a gun and a badge come in and say, you're a felon on the same game they've walked by dozens of times before. So we can address that down the road. With the online gaming, that's my biggest concern. And with the select committee on gaming, I would love to get into that a little deeper because that's really where the growth and the concern is. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I thank the committee for all the work with the good chairman and all the work they've done, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Moore? Representative Stiver.
I'll ask that question offline. You know what it's gonna be.
Okay, so any other questions? Mr. Moser, Senator, thank you.
Yeah,
Please.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, during the interim, we all worked together. The industry, all parties worked together to craft this. It wasn't done in a vacuum, just to put some color to it. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, please proceed. And I'd ask that you kind of keep it a little short so we don't run into the wall too hard here.
Craig Alexander with Cheyenne Elks Lodge 660 here in town. And we do not oppose trying to clarify the legislation and the enforcement of gaming. However, historically, that gaming has allowed us to create several fundraisers to be able to donate monies back to the community and back to the state through scholarship programs and various other means. And we feel that the way the bill is being presented now infringes upon our ability to be able to continue with that. And we would like to see that some sort of language be inserted, eliminating or removing the local charitable organizations that are actually trying to increase money into the communities to be spared from the broad swipe and understandable, but a broad scope of the definitions to define the legal or what is considered legitimate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Questions for Mr. Alexander? Representative Stiver.
I want to talk to the. Him.
Well,
That's
hang on a second. Let's. Senator, please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, it's always been allowed that this money can go 100% a charitable contribution, right? It's always been, it still is, it hasn't changed. Nothing has changed in that respect. What's changed is the nuance of taking quote unquote a cut for whatever reason. That's the difference here. You've always been allowed to take raffles for charitable purposes, and they're doing great things with the money they're giving to other purposes, you know, that they want to support. That's always been allowed. This bill does nothing to change that. The nuance is how much are you taking? I'll just use the word skimming off the top for whatever purpose. As long as 100% of that money goes to a charity, there's never been a question about that. I fully support that. This bill never intended to infringe on any of that. It comes down to probably mostly education. Folks, we've done it for so long in so many places, people feel it's okay. And some of these things are basically okay, but not all okay. So this just clarifies what's legal and what's illegal. And, you know, we may need to do something in the future if there arises a problem from maybe things that wasn't anticipated. But clearly, always charitable contributions have always been allowed. And this is a great way that people do it. is a raffle or whatever be the case. So that was never intended, and I don't see it in here where that says anything other than that. 100% charitable on a raffle, giving it to the charity is what's allowed, has been.
Thank you. Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to mention that as we vetted this bill through the committee, that illegal poker will still be illegal. This bill is needed so that the district attorneys have the ability to enforce the definitions. There was some ambiguity in the prior language, and this gives the Wyoming Gaming Commission the ability to really push what is within statute for illegal gaming, illegal gambling, for them to be able to do their job. Also that coin purchasers have always been illegal, and the Wyoming Gaming Commission is just now has the ability to enforce those laws statutorily. And so I want to thank them for making sure that they're following the law in all regards and not just picking and choosing winners and losers. Thank you.
And Representative Riggins, and I'm sorry, we didn't get much of a chance to ask Mr. Alexander questions. Did anybody have any questions for Mr. Alexander? Just want to make sure I don't miss that. Okay. Representative Riggins, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a general question on how you highlighted it's felony. Is there any misdemeanor considerations with this? Could you quickly explain that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Riggins. So facilitating or hosting the game is a felony. Participating in the game is actually a misdemeanor. Excuse me. So in the Queen of Hearts one, because that's the real prominent one right now, the lodges or the bars that are hosting that game are guilty of a felony. Every person that bought a card or bought a ticket to play that game is guilty of a misdemeanor.
Senator.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had an example, shockingly, in my county where it was over, I think, 140,000 during one of these games. And the outcome is not typically a charge with a felony by the county attorney. Our county attorney basically gives a cease and desist statement to said person because they cooperate with these people, right? So unless they don't follow the cease and desist order, it'll probably escalate. But for our locality, which had that very, very large game, it was a cease and desist order was given just to say that our county prosecutors are giving deference to the people they're encountering, trying to deal with it in they think the proper way.
Thank you. Thank you. That's actually helpful. Representative Storr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. An amendment has been suggested to me, and I just want to run it by all of you, whether this helps or hinders getting at the Queen of Hearts issue. And that would be to include in the language on the engrossed bill, let's see, page 2, line 14, and including fraternal organizations in the language under E, to participated in by natural persons or fraternal organizations. Does that make sense or not?
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Storr, it's problematic. It's problematic language. I'll say, because as soon as you start talking about natural persons, now you've segregated out the said business or place that this activity happened. The issue comes up where we have folks conducting gaming. I mean, actual buy-ins in the back room, and they go, well, we don't know what's going on back there. That's the issue. So I think it was very deliberately crafted in this way to include businesses and individuals, because as we can't stop people having a friendly card game in the back room. What we don't want to, basically exacerbate the situation where we have people conducting a business and go, I don't know what's going on back there. I mean, I could have a lot of analogies to talk about the same thing, but that's the problem with that language. I think, once again, I'll just reinstate, this is a big lift from what we had. Many, many things were contemplated here. And this conversation needs to continue. And I think, in all honesty, if something comes up where this becomes an issue where legitimate operations are trying to be conducted and they're prohibited in a way that the legislators feel it's improper, sure, we'll have to tackle that. But I think once we start talking about basically allowing an illegal activity in a room because it's mostly for the good, right? It's mostly, I don't know what mostly means. Hopefully it's more than 50% goes to a charity. Frankly, the way this is written, I'll just tell you, there's a pretty well a free section in here that says you can take those winnings off. You could have it 99.9%, 99% going to somebody and 0.00 whatever percent going to a charity. I think so there is something in here in all honesty, that really allows other activities to continue, which, frankly, I'm probably not 100% supportive of. However, as all things in bills are compromises, this is a compromise and trying to get to a place where we can move this forward and do the best good that we can. And so I don't think that helps it. And Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr, I don't think it helps the bill. I'll put it that way, but that's up to this committee to debate that. Thank you for the opportunity to answer, though.
Thank you, Senator. Other questions for the folks we have here? Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this bill? Please fill the chairs. I believe we have one online. We have as well, one online person. So no one else in the room? Okay, let's go ahead and handle the online person. We need to be pretty quick with this, so we're going to ask them to be short because we're not going to have any chance to work the bill. And while you're getting this person online, okay, very good. Ms. Callis, I think, correct?
Yes, good morning, Chairman Locke.
Yes, please. Please proceed.
Yes, my name is Loretta Callis. I am the president of the Wyoming County and Prosecuting Attorneys Association. This bill has gone through interim session and there was input provided to the task force actually here in Evanston and moving forward throughout this bill. And there has also been representation from the association. So the primary purpose in relation to my appearance today is just to let you as a body know that the association has voted on this legislation. We are in support of this legislation. In fact, it was unanimous. And in addition to that, we are in support of the amendment that was proposed by Senator Schuler. We do believe that including drawings in the raffle language provides for just some clarity that people understand, like you guys were discussing earlier, the 50-50 drawings are raffles. And so that provides for any clarity in support of that. I believe it was Representative Locke, Representative Storr, Chairman Locke, that asked about fraternal organizations. I would note that the engrossed language actually does have an exception for fraternal organizations. It is in subsection E3. And so that is new language that was worked through the task force that will provide for some relief or remedies to fraternal organizations, which would of course include Eagles, Elks, and other provisions. It's very bright in Evanston today, so my apologies for the view. But more than anything, I know you need to work fast, and so I am speaking quickly. But I wanted to be here in case there were any questions of the association that I could provide guidance.
Thank you, Ms. Callis. Any questions? Thank you so much for shedding some light on that and giving us more insight. And Senator, I believe that language is the language. Is that the language that's in there already?
Yeah.
In the engrossed?
Yes, Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Anyone else to speak? Any questions for the folks that are here? And thank you, Ms. Callis, for coming, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to I'm moving a little quickly here, but thank you. Very good. That being said, seeing none, we're going to close public comment. We're going to work the bill. So committee, what's your pleasure?
Move the bill.
The bill has been moved and seconded by Representative Lucas. Any amendments? And we're going to go quickly here. So page 1, page 2, 3, you got to stop me fast if you're going to. Okay, and page 4, and that's the bill. Seeing no amendments, discussion on the bill. Question being called, please call roll.
This is a roll call vote for Senate File 44. Representative Brown?
Aye.
Representative Campbell?
No.
Representative Lean?
Aye.
Representative Lucas? Representative Riggins? Representative Storr? Vice Chair Stibar?
Aye.
Representative Wharf?
He left us a aye vote.
Chairman Locke.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 8 ayes, 1 no.
All right, very good. Senator, I'm sorry, we're not going to get to your second bill. Can I?
Look forward to coming back, Mr. Chairman. It's up to your discretion. That's fine. I'll be back.
Okay, so here's a question for the LSO to keep me in line because I usually break these rules. And so I'm going to ask the committee and I'm going to ask LSO, can we recess and come and resume at adjournment today? And Senator, would that be acceptable for you? Although Representative Lee can support as well, it looks like.
Up to your deferral. I'm fine with that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'll be here.
Okay. I would like to resume, but I don't know how long that'll take, so.
The other one. They said from 3 to 8.
Okay.
Just for your edification, this one is very short. And I hate to say that cool word that makes it really complex, but if you were willing to hear it, I promise it'll take 5 minutes.
Well, then let's roll and we'll be laid on the floor and I'll be chastised accordingly. Let's go. Then let's.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just sum it up for you. It's come about in some of our communities that skills-based games, which are different than HHR machines and gambling, are showing up in liquor store or in with their liquor license to be able to sell packaged liquor. You're now getting skills-based games that are showing up in grocery stores. This amendment to the skills gaming statute makes it so that those have to go inside the liquor store so that one, they're available to people over the age of 21, and two, they're not unsightly for families that don't want to participate in gaming in our state.
All right. Any questions for the representative, for the senator? Senator, would you like to add to that?
Oh, just one thing that there was some discussion about the rules could, and the gaming commission could address this. And so the issue is this: state statutes allowed them into that footprint of the liquor building. And there's a package part and there's the whole building. While we made some changes because of restaurants and to be able to serve beverages, there is frankly a loophole within the law statutorily. And that's why the statute isn't, this bill's in front of you to change that, to shut that loophole, to say that, no, you can't put them outside of the packaged physical liquor sales area. So it can't go into the grocery stores. That's where it came from. They put them in the grocery stores right in front of the checkout stands. So this just clarifies that language. It's pretty clean. It's pretty simple. But it just says you can't go there.
Great. Thank you, Senator. And I fear there's people lining up to talk, so that might blow us over the timeline, but we'll see what we have. Please step up and speak, and thank you for presenting the bill. All right, and everybody, we're, as you can guess, we're on a 4-minute timeline, and so as quickly as we possibly can.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Mike Mosier, Wyoming State Liquor Association. We think the amendment that was adopted in the Senate tightens this bill up quite nicely to take care of the issue. So as written, we support this bill.
Excellent. Please.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Nick Agopian here for J&J Gaming. We too support the amendment that came through in the Senate and believe it puts the bill in the correct place. We also were on record last Friday in support of the forthcoming rulemaking that the Gaming Commission has voted to begin that would also address this very similarly to this legislation. So we stand in support if the committee wants to move it forward. And if they chose not to, we certainly believe that the commission has a forthcoming rule that would address this and address the legitimate concerns of the committee.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, briefly, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jonathan Downing with Cowboy Skill and Pace-O-Matic. Briefly, we're fine with the bill as far as the Senate version staying intact. Our games are mainly Cowboy Skill games are located in BFWs, else American Legions, bars and taverns, serve as supplemental revenue for those businesses. Those were not our games that were in question as far as those locations that had been addressed. Believe the bill's fine as written. Always find out be available for questions. And if things change moving forward, we'll definitely be in contact.
Thank you. Any questions for the current speakers and anybody else to speak on this who would like? Seeing none, that is great. Did anybody else want to speak? But we don't have anybody online, I don't think either, do we on this one?
Nobody's indicating at this time that they want to speak on
Wonderful.
this bill.
So last chance, public comment. We're gonna move quick. So, okay, I'm gonna close public comment committee. Your pleasure on the bill. Bill has been moved and seconded, and hopefully you have all that. And I'm gonna cheat and say any amendments. It's 4 pages. If you have one, make them. All right, seeing none. Discussion on the bill.
Question.
No quick, seeing no comments, question being called, please call roll.
This is a roll call for Senate File 46. Representative Brown,
Aye.
Representative Campbell, Representative Lean, Representative Lucas, Representative Riggins,
Aye.
Representative Storer, Vice Chair Stivar,
Aye.
Representative Wharf,
He left us an aye vote.
Chairman Locke.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, that is 9 ayes.
9 ayes. Always love that, but